Good afternoon. Welcome to another segment of the Jermaine Brown Sports Talk Show. Today is Friday, January the 15th, 2016. Now, I know I just had a segment just a couple of days ago talking about coaches, the perils of being an NFL coach. Well, lo and behold, we had some coaches that was just hired, a couple that was retained. But basically, I'm not even going to talk about those that was retained, but there was a couple of quote-unquote surprise hirings. Number one, well, before I even talk about that, let me first start off by apologizing to the Cleveland Browns because I called them the worst franchise in football in my last segment. Okay? I owe them an apology because no sooner did I say that, a day later or so, they turned around and they hired Hugh Jackson. Now, I'm not saying Hugh Jackson is going to be successful. We don't know. But at least it's a start. To me, he is arguably the best coach out there. Or the best coach that was out there. Or not coach, sorry. Coaching candidate that was out there. Out of all the other candidates out there. And then there's the San Francisco 49ers. Okay? They went and they just hired Chip Kelly. So I'm going to really focus on those two particular jobs. The Giants today just hired Bob McAdoo, or yesterday hired Bob McAdoo. I don't know if he's going to be a good coach or not. We really don't know. And that's not a name they really get excited about. So I'm not going to talk about the Giants hire or the fact that Detroit decided to keep Caldwell and Malarkey is most likely going to be staying in Tennessee, and Dirk Cutter is staying, or is going to be in Tampa. I'm not going to talk about those hires because those are not sexy picks. The two hires that are significant is Hugh Jackson in Cleveland, Chip Kelly in San Francisco. Now let me start off with Hugh Jackson. When I first heard the news, I was like, what in the hell is he doing taking that job? First of all, in my previous segment, you don't want to take a job if you're a head coach and the quarterback is not in place, or you're identifying the quarterback who's going to be in place. Okay? Now, when he took that job, the Cleveland job, Cleveland doesn't have the quarterback in place. So that, to me, would have disqualified Cleveland right there. Not only that, the fact that they had a baseball guy doing with the analytics and that sort of stuff, and I just wasn't sold on the Cleveland franchise. I thought that there were other jobs out there that he could have had, like San Francisco and the New York Football Giants. Now, see, there are reports coming out that, San Francisco backed off of Hugh Jackson. That wasn't the case. Folks, let me explain something to you. There's an old adage, and Donald Trump, I'm going to give Donald Trump credit for this because this is where I first heard it. He says, if you want to see me, you come to me. You come to my office. If I want to see you, I'll come to your office. Now, why is that statement important? Because Cincinnati played last Saturday, okay? This past Saturday against the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was reported that after they lost the game, Jed York, the owner of the San Francisco 49ers, flew from Santa Clara, San Francisco, all the way to Cincinnati. Now, he didn't fly to Cincinnati to go sightseeing or to go take a look at the lakes or go to a restaurant. He went there to interview Hugh Jackson. Now, if he went there to interview Hugh Jackson, why is the owner flying from one state to another to go and interview somebody if you just what they call kicking the tires? If you want to kick the tires, you pay for Hugh Jackson to come to San Francisco. I'm not going to go all out of my way to go from San Francisco to Cincinnati unless I wanted to hire the guy. Now, somewhere in the meeting, something went wrong. My guess is Hugh Jackson didn't like the structure. There was something that just did not jive. And here's how I know. because it was reported by Adam Scheffler and all, and these are some of the best in the business, expect the deal to be signed that night, which was Sunday night, or to be announced that night, if not signed, to be announced. Well, when Sunday night passed, and we got into Monday, and no deal was announced, that told me right there, I said, something didn't go right. And then it was no secret that Cleveland was calling, Cleveland was, wanting to meet with him, this, that, and the other. I did not think he should have met with Cleveland. I'm going to be honest with you. That's what I said. Don't meet with Cleveland. And then the report came out about the middle of last week. Not even the middle of last week. About the mid last week. That Jerry Reese and John Mara called up and told him hold off making any any agreements, that they wanted to talk to him. They wanted to interview him. Now, why would the Giants do this? And they've already interviewed Bob McAdoo. If Bob McAdoo was their first choice, then why would you tell this man to hold off making any agreements that you really wanted to interview him if this guy was your guy? So they're going to sit there and try to spin it any kind of way. But the reality is, Hugh Jackson rebuffed both the 49ers and he rebuffed the New York Football Giants. Two franchises with storied histories who've had some recent success compared to that of the Browns. And he took the Browns job. And I thought the man is on crack. Okay? But see, I'm going to tell you something that he has to be getting with the Browns. He wasn't getting with the other two. And that's with the 49ers and the Giants. Control. What do I mean by that? Anytime the team hires the coach and then hires the GM, the coach has some control. Where the Giants and the 49ers already had a GM in place. So therefore, he wasn't going to have the same control. So if you think about this carefully, folks, if I have to choose between those three jobs, I would take the Giants first, the 49ers second, and the Cleveland Browns third. But now if you throw in the GM position or control position where I can control, I have final say who's on the roster, this, that, and the other. And you can best believe he has control. Just because they didn't announce that doesn't mean he doesn't have it. So if you're telling me that I'm going to be a head coach who's going to have final say, well, now that Cleveland job becomes a lot more attractive. So now I'm going to say this to Hugh Jackson, and then I'm going to move on from Cleveland. I'm going to say this to Hugh Jackson. You better identify your quarterback quickly. Now, there was rumors and reports out there that, he might be looking to get Colin Kaepernick. And that may or may not pan out, but because of some recent developments in San Francisco, which I'm about to get to in a minute. But here's the thing. Whether it's Colin Kaepernick or someone in the draft, you better identify the guy. Personally, here's what I would do if I'm Hugh Jackson. Because I'm not sold on any of these quarterbacks in this year's draft. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't draft one, but definitely not in the first round. I'm not going to use a number 2 pick on any of these quarterbacks. To me, that's called reaching. And reaching will get you fired faster than anything. But here's what I can do. Here's what I would do if I'm Jackson. If I cannot get Kaepernick to come to Cleveland, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen now, then the next guy that I would look at would be RG3. Because here's this guy who's supposed to be known as the quarterback whisperer, or the guy who's supposed to have done great jobs with quarterbacks, and he has. Look at the quarterbacks he's worked with, guys. I mean, these are not, top flight names here. But he made, Andy Dalton, A.J. McCarron, Jason Campbell. Okay? He's worked with Carson Palmer. Now, Carson Palmer is more of a top flight name than the others, but you get the picture. But the point being is, so if he can do good work with quarterbacks, why not give RG3 an opportunity? To me, I think he would be an upgrade over what you currently have there and what's potentially in the draft. Now, I'm not saying again it will work, but at least that's the route that I would go. Now, on to San Francisco. I was kind of depressed the other day because the rumor was that the San Francisco 49ers were strongly considering Mike Shanahan. And I wanted no part of Mike Shanahan for a number of reasons. Number one, he hasn't won since John Elway left the building in Denver. Okay? Him, like Jeff Fisher, is getting a better reputation than what he really is. But unlike Jeff Fisher, he's at least won some more. He has a better record than Jeff Fisher. But I think his reputation is overblown, personally speaking. That's number one. Number two, it's no secret that he's been talking up Kirk Cousins. He's been talking up Kirk Cousins since he got fired from Washington. I'm talking about Mike Shanahan. And the word was, if he gets that job, that's who he was going to make a play for, Kirk Cousins. As a 49er fan, I wanted no part of Kirk Cousins. Yes, I am a Jet and a 49er fan. But as a 49er fan, I wanted no part of Kirk Cousins because I think of him as a mediocre quarterback. It's just that simple. He's mediocre. And I didn't want the 49ers tying their future up with a guy who just, blasé. Just or just an ordinary Jane. Or in this case, ordinary Joe. Because I don't want to offend the man. He seems like a nice guy. So I don't want to be offensive to him. But he's ordinary. There's nothing special about Kirk Cousins. Okay? But then the report started to circulate a little bit more that it became down now between him and Chip Kelly. Now, I do know that Chip Kelly's interest was in the 49ers from the beginning because as soon as he got fired from Philadelphia, usually the team will call the coach to gauge his interest. In this case, the coach called the team, the 49ers, and told them, I'm interested in this job. So that means he saw something in San Francisco that he felt he can work with. And I'll get to that in a minute as to what he felt he can work with. But then the 49ers looked like they didn't want to hire him. They showed more interest in Hugh Jackson and maybe some others. Okay? Now, I'm going to say this, and this is a full disclaimer. I advocated for the hiring of Chip Kelly for a number of reasons. Not that I'm a Chip Kelly lover. I don't love Chip Kelly. I don't care for Chip Kelly. Okay? I think he's arrogant. And that's not necessarily a problem because a lot of coaches are arrogant.